Welcome guys, this is Paul, aka Internet, for iPoker VIP Coaching. This is going to be a video where I play No Limit 400, 6 max of course, but it's going to be a little different this time. I'm not going to be playing live, I'm actually going to review what I played, so that means I recorded a session where I played, and I'm going to go over the footage that I have. That has a couple of advantages over just doing a live video. For one, I can speed up the footage, so when there's like no action happening, when it's like boring, we're just gonna go through that quicker. And then on the flip side, of course, if there's an interesting decision or there's a concept I want to touch on a bit more deeply, then I can pause the footage and obviously go into that. Yeah, so I hope you guys might like that more. One downside of reviewing is that it kind of makes it less authentic. Like at live, when you play live and comment live, you have to snap, make the decision, see what happens, and yeah, it's kind of not really authentic to look after. But I think it's definitely worth doing that. Another downside is it takes up more time. So kind of, do you want to have two live videos or one review video? That's kind of the question. I like review videos more because it's more in depth, but I'm definitely not gonna do those only. Well, this is the first one. Hope you guys like it. It's gonna be played on Stars.FR, which is of course the French PokerStars version. So naturally, it's gonna be played in euros, not in dollars. Some people might not be aware that I'm German and I'm not French, but even as a German, you can play on PokerStars.fr. In fact, I think the policy is that everyone who has a bank account registered in the European Union can sign up for PokerStars.fr. They have some kind of weird regulations in place, like you have to enter your date of birth every time you log in, and some random shenanigans like that. Also, they have very high rake. Like obviously, they rake in euros. That's naturally higher than dollars because currently €1 is like 130, $135. And also, just because the way the taxation works, they tax every pod, so there's more rake because of that. So overall, the rake is extremely high. Maybe you've read about protests from the French players like sitting out at tables to reduce the rake structure and stuff. So that's bad. So usually I only play there when I get like a reload bonus, like they put out €100 reload bonus, and then the added rake back percentage makes up for the higher rake, so I try that side out. There's not really a lot of games going, but on occasion I'll play that site. As I'm not a regular to the site, obviously I don't know anyone, and so I don't even bother putting up a HUD. I'm just gonna play sort of standard basic game. Obviously, we want to identify who the weaker players are and who aren't. But when we're playing against a regular, we're gonna be looking at sort of a base strategy that's like solid against more or less everyone. So you're not gonna see any sort of crazy reads or yeah any over adjustments. Alright, so since it's a review session, I don't know how much time of the footage I'm gonna play out. So this is gonna be part one of, I don't know, maybe two, maybe more. Well, we'll see. So let's get started. Hope you guys have fun. Good morning, noon, afternoon, evening, night. This is Paul, aka Internet, for iPoker VIP Coaching. We have 4 tables, 2-4 euros at PokerStars.fr, as you can see. I recorded this session. Right now it should be 1 or 2 or 3 hands into the session. Yeah, if you look at my stacks, that seems like what it is. So I'm gonna go over this. We're gonna see what happens, and I'm gonna talk about what happens and what my mistakes are, and what I think other people might make as mistakes. Okay, I'm just gonna start this, even though I know I'm gonna pause right in a second. So pay attention, top left table. What just happened is cutoff raises to 3x. Pretty standard. I'm small blind, ace queen off. Folding would be a huge mistake. Calling would be a big mistake, and 3-betting is, I think, standard and best play. So what happens is he 4-bets. Obviously nothing special, nothing really worth to talk about, as like every 6 max regular probably gets into this situation like 10 times a day. or more. What I want to do though is quickly look at the math of the situation here. Just because I think everyone should be able to do this kind of like basic calculation to compare jamming to folding, and yeah, I think it's really important. And even if you know how to do this yourself, maybe you might find some interesting ways that I do the calculation that might like help you fasten your process or something. So I hope everyone gets something out of a little math class here. So what we want to find out is folding versus jamming. Folding bigger, jam bigger, like in respect to EV, or worse, like what is it? So obviously we have to calculate the EV of both options, and first off we're gonna calculate the EV of folding. And what's the EV of folding? Well, there's a lot of ways you could argue, but there's two major ways to do it. Way number one would be you say folding is minus 40 euros because we put in 40 bucks into the pot, so if we fold we lose that. So if we compare our stack size to the 400 we sat down with, folding would be minus 40. However, there is an easier way to do it, and the easier way for calculation purposes is to set folding to 0. So we say at this point where we're at right now, if we fold, it's a 0 decision. It's like that's our baseline. We say we compare jamming to folding at that point. So what's jamming? What's going to happen if we jam? If we jam, there's two possible scenarios. Scenario one is he folds, in which case, well, we're going to win what's in the pot. That's 134 if I'm not mistaken. So he folds, we win 134. Now, if we said folding had an EV of minus 40, then what would be our equity if he folds? Question mark. Think about it. Well, in case he folded and we'd compare our stack to our starting stack, then the EV of our jam and he folds will be 94. So always pay attention to what you're comparing. We're comparing to folding at 0, so we say when he folds we're doing $134 better than that. So the other option is he calls, and this is where we need somewhere extra math. And basically what I think is important to do is always like put him on a range of ranges, so to say. So we're gonna look at two cases. We're gonna say he calls tight. How do you spell that? He calls tight. So prepared a little poker stove here. He calls tight. Ace queen off against somewhat tight 4-bit calling range, and the cutoff maybe jacks plus ace king, maybe 10s plus ace king, whatever. Our equity is going to be 30%. So what's our EV when we have 30% equity? Well, 30% of the time we're going to be winning. And how much are we going to win? We're going to win the 400 bucks he's going to put in, plus the 40 bucks we already put in, plus the 4 bucks the big blind put in. So if we win 444 compared to folding being 0. Again, if you argue folding is minus 40, this number is going to be 40 less as well. It's going to be 404 because we don't win the 40 we put in if we say folding is minus 40. Hope I'm not confusing everybody. Just look at what's written down and that's correct. And then of course 70% of the time we're not going to win, we're actually going to lose. And losing 70% of the time, how much do we lose? Well, we lose the extra money we put in, which is going to be 360. Right. If we crunch those numbers, I already did that. It should be minus 118. So if we jam ace queen and he ends up calling with a 10s plus ace king, we're gonna lose 118 bucks if compared to folding. And this number, the minus 18, the if compared to folding should be minus 118, whether you put minus 40 here or minus a billion here. So the other option is he calls loosely, I guess you should say. Well, we'll just say loose. So say he's 4-bit calling cutoff kind of light, which I don't know if he is, but well, we'll just like put these two ideas out there, like these two ranges for him out there, how tight or loose he calls, to get an idea of how many folds we need in each scenario. So we'll say ace queen pocket eights is pretty reasonable, I think. That would be somewhat of a loose 4-bet calling range. Wouldn't be bad by any means, but kind of the loosest range you'll see here. I mean, sometimes people are going to have ace jack, but probably not very likely. So in this case, we'll just round it up to 40%. And again, same numbers. We win the 400 of his plus the 44 already in the pot for myself. And then this is going to be 60, right? 40 plus 60 is 100. And again, same amount we lose in case we lose. And this is going to be about 50, negative 50. So what gives that? Well, case 1, if he calls tight, you can see, he calls tight. We get, you can kind of understand it as pot odds. We get 134 to 118, meaning, well, it's not really pot odds in this fashion, but odds, I guess. If he calls tight, we win 134 if he folds, and we lose 118 if he calls. So these numbers are about equal, like they're not different by too much. So that means if he's calling 4-bet calling a tight range, he needs to be folding 50% for his shove to be as good as a fold. Because if he folds 50%, we get 50% of that, 50% of that, which is about 0, which is about what folding is. Actually, if he folds 50%, then jamming is better because the EV of folding, of jamming and him folding is higher than the EV of us jamming and him calling tight. So we'll say need about 50% folds, right? And then he calls loose. Well, the same sort of odds way to write down. We have like this ratio of 50 to about 150. So roughly, well, I guess that's roughly about, this number is about 3 times that number. This left number is about 3 times the right number. So we need about how many folds? Answer, you need to know this. We need about 25% folds. I hope I'm not messing this up because I'm doing it live. Because if we get 25% folds, then 1/4 of the time we're gonna get this, and 3/4 of the time we're gonna get this, and 3/4 is 3 times 1/4, so in total is gonna be 0. So what gives? Well, basically, if he folds 50% of the time to a jam here, we should always be jamming. If he folds somewhere between 25 and 50%, so if he's bluffing between those two numbers, he better has a somewhat looser range than a tighter range for us to be able to jam. In any case, he's gonna be 4-bet bluffing even against unknownish positions here, so jamming is always fine. And if you tweak those numbers to get like other hands, I guess we can just do that instead of ace queen, give ourselves some sort of 7-5 suited or something. We have 25% instead of 30 here. So even like jamming 7-5 suited doesn't need too much more than 50% folds to be profitable. So that sort of like 50% number should stick to your head whenever you're in a situation with like somewhat not that happy hand to jam. You're gonna be needing about 50% folds, and if you think that's optimistic based on stats or based on reads, then you shouldn't jam. And if you think he's probably gonna fold half the time or maybe 40%, then just go ahead and jam. It's gonna be fine. Alright, so that's what I ended up doing. That already took up a lot of time. So let's get rolling. Bottom right table, already kind of interesting. I min raised on the button 2 callers. Let's see, standard stack sizes. And the big blind leads on a very connected type of board. Range distributions are gonna be all over the place here. All 3 of us can have straights, high straights, low straights, sets, 2 pairs, flush draws, combo draws, over cards, under cards, over pairs, top pairs. Basically everyone can have everything here. When that's the case, just sort of play by your hand strength. We have, I have bottom pair open ender. Not very strong hand, but has some equity against pretty much everything except the nut straight. This guy leads 3/4 pot. I don't think he's bluffing in a sense of betting queen jack offsuit. He's probably on a range of premiums like any straight, any set, any 2 pair, any combo draw. Draws maybe a hand like jack 10, which like nails the 9 is gonna be leading because like, well, maybe he gets a fold or a jack or a 10, or he gets a 9 and can like stack anyone else who has like a 9, or get a lot of value from someone with a 5. So a hand like Jack 10 or maybe any 10x type of hand might make a lot of sense for him to bluff lead. In general, though, I think this is sort of a strong range, and you don't want to mess around with it. So it's a bit of a difficult situation for us here with the pair plus open ender. I think calling is a bit loose. I think raising doesn't work against a strong range, so I think I'm in favor of a fold here. Even though if we fold this hand, he can probably lead our bluffs profitably, because then, yeah, we on the button and the other guy are going to fold probably often enough that he can like lead king queen here. But I don't expect him to, so I shouldn't be worried about getting exploited by like a loose lead like that. Top right, Jack 7 suited against a min raise, certainly gonna call that. Yeah. All right. Oh yeah, I'm timing on that bottom right, so that's good. At least I'm not numbly doing something. So I decided to call. I would say it's a bit too loose, just based on the fact that usually people lead strong in this situation. So, top right table, flop flush draw gut shot, pretty good. He checks behind. His range for checking behind, in my opinion, is going to be a lot of hands that just give up, like pocket fives, ace 5, 10, 7. No hearts, of course. All of these hands could just like decide not to c-bet, just give up. And then what else does he have? He has king x that he decides not to c-bet because he's a bit on the tighter side. And he could have any queen, any 9, any like pocket jacks, pocket 10s is very feasible. Maybe he checks back a low flush draw, like 4 or 5 hearts. That's also possible. So on the turn, we have Jack high, so we can't really check down and show this down. We have to. Well, betting is good if he has ace high and folds, ace 5 type of hand, pocket 5s type of hand. If he has a 9 or a queen, he's probably gonna call. Maybe he folds a 9. But we have a lot of equity. We're not expecting to get raised on the turn unless he has pocket 8s, maybe queen 8. Maybe he doesn't raise queen 8. Same goes for 8 9. So I don't expect many raises here. So I think we can always realize our equity on our bet here. So even if he calls, it's obviously fine because we have a lot of equity. So yeah, I don't really think there's any argument against betting. Question is bet size. I just bet kind of big because I have a lot of strong hands here, like king 10 plus, which I want to bet for value, and this hand also plays well on the river because like I know where I'm at. If a jack comes, I check. If a 10 comes, I can value bet. If a flush comes, I can value bet. So this hand plays well on the river, and when you have a hand that plays well on the river, you want a big pot, of course. And if you have a hand that plays terribly on rivers, like turn over pair on a super drawy board, you don't want to bet big because, well, if it's going to be tough to face a bet, you don't want a bigger pot to have an even bigger bet. Right, I guess that's just very standard on the top right. Top left, he had ace king in case you're interested in results. Okay, so bottom right, this is a bit tricky. The small blind overcalled flop, his range should be very well defined. If he has a nut hand on the flop, he's gonna check raise, guaranteed. No one's gonna like check overcall slow play a straight on the flop. Might have two pair, obviously being a bit cautious, which is totally fine. He's very likely to have a similar hand to ours, probably a bit stronger, because he doesn't call 9-6 in the small blind, and well, just also more likely to have a middle pair or top pair with a straight draw. So I think he's gonna have like 8-9, 10-8. Yeah, any type of hand like that. Maybe 9-7 if he calls that pre-flop. Pocket 9s maybe if he doesn't 3-bet that. And he's gonna have a bunch of flush draws, which are not strong enough to check raise and get in, but which are certainly strong enough to call and see a turn. So he checks turn, doesn't really tell us anything about his range. I think he's gonna be checking almost all the time here. Now this guy checks, and to me, this is a green light for bluffing. If you had a hand that needed to bluff, of course. Because if this guy led the flop with like a flush draw, he's gonna bet the turn. And if he led the flop with like a set or a straight, he's gonna check call or maybe even check fold turn, and he's then if he check called, he's gonna check fold river unless he improves usually. So this will be a really good spot to start bluffing, but we have the other player in the hand, and we don't have a hand that needs to bluff, obviously. So yeah, just throwing that point out there. So what do? We have a straight, the high straight, in case someone has pocket fours somehow or 7-4 somehow. Can we get value out of this? And I think the answer is no, because like I said, this Poverzoller is actually gonna maybe check fold a set, so we can't really value bet him. And then the other guy might have well, if unlikely he has a set because he would have check raised flop. Two pair probably not going to call, and he has flushes, so we can't really value bet against this guy either. So even though we turn straight, there's pretty much no way we can bet this. We could bet it for protection, just in case both of them have a set. For instance, we don't want to give like what is it, like 8 free cards if they both have a set or something. But I think that's a weak argument. Just check back, see what happens. Kind of probably call a river bet unless it's really big. Yeah, so I did check back, so that's good. Top left table, I open button ace 5. Big blind calls a min raise, so could be any type of range really. Some people are tight, even calling min raises, so they just call like 8% of hands, pocket pairs, ace jack. Some people are really loose against min raises and gonna call like 40%, 50% of hands, anything suited or connected basically. So can't really read his pre-flop range too well. Flop ace high on a super dry board. Betting serves little purpose, I should say, because if he has a pair, he's not folding, so we can't bluff. And if he has king high, he's probably not floating, so he can't value bet. We could bet just for protection. If he has 10-8, make him fold his 25% equity in the pot. And we do have some turn cards we could bet, like an ace is really good for us. 4 or 3 is okay for us. So betting isn't bad, but I prefer just check it down and show my hand down. But betting is fine. You can bet that. Yeah. So turn check check. Again, no reason to bet really. River, it's kind of unfortunate board development in a sense that if he had nothing, he'd be bluffing river like almost always. If he has king 3 suited, he's gonna bluff this river. And when he checks this river, he's gonna have a 6, 8, or jack almost always, or like pocket 3s, pocket 5s, that type of hand. Maybe he'd even bet a jack, so can't give his checks too many jack X type of hands. But yeah, I think it's really unlikely. We're good on the river. Could we turn it into a bluff against his like pocket 4s, ace deuce type of hands? Certainly possible. I'm pretty sure I check behind, but might be a good idea to bluff. I'm not sure. He's obviously going to call if he has an 8 or a jack. Might call a 6. Might even check raise bluff if he has, I don't know, ace deuce. So, oh yeah, betting isn't very attractive, but it's reasonable. It's not. Yeah, I'm not sure. Betting is fine. Checking is fine. So he has king jack. Actually, decides not to bet turn, not to bet river. I think he should bet river. It's kind of unlikely that I'm gonna start bluffing river, like I didn't with that hand. So he can't really check to induce a bluff. He also can't check raise for value, I think. I mean, once I bet river, I'm obviously likely to have a jack myself, some sort of ace jack hand. So yeah, I don't think he can check raise for value. So I think he should just bet himself and hope I look him up with like an ace high or a 6x or whatever. So I think a little mistake by him there. Bottom right, river goes check 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 again, or just check check again. I think small blind could very well go for a river check raise with a flush, so can't like take that out of his range. He's probably gonna have a 2 pair type of hand or a straight as well, or well some sort of slow played flush. Against this guy, we might get a call from like a set because he thinks we might have something that we're turning into a bluff. Oh, it's actually not that simple of a situation. One problem with betting is that our range is sort of our value betting range is sort of face up as 9x, we wouldn't value bet a 4. We'd bet a flush on the turn. So if we're betting this river, we're gonna have a 9, or we're bluffing. And that's a bit worrisome because if these guys are paying attention and they know I'm value betting a 9 on the river, they could just check jam as a bluff or for value if they somehow have a flush, or if they have 9x themselves, they could just check jam it. I guess 9 jack's possible, so I have to be worried about that, but well, yeah, if one of them has a 9x, they could check over jam it and try to get me off the split. So that's something I have to be worried about. Also, I'm not sure what worse hand calls me. It's very unlikely someone has a 4 in their range. Like, he's donking pocket 4s, possible, but very unlikely. This guy overcalling pocket 4s, yeah, again, possible, but very unlikely. So a 4 is, yeah, unlikely, just almost impossible. 7-4 spades or something, also very, very unlikely. And what else calls? Well, basically, I have to get called by a set or a 2-pair, and a set or 2-pair is obviously a pure bluff catcher, so they'd have to think I'm bluffing. And a 3-way pot on the river, I just don't think people are gonna be too likely to call with a bluff catcher. Just my opinion or feel. If I want to bet here, I think I should bet really small, like 15, 18, 20, maybe 25, but I think less than half pot, otherwise I'm not getting called. Downside of betting really small is, of course, that I invite a bluff check raise, and then I don't know what to do if I get check raised here. What did I do? I bet. Well, obviously, I can't help myself when I have a straight. I did bet less than half pot, so I like that. I like my sizing decision. 30. Well, I mean, if I knew one of the guys was a weaker player, I could, of course, just bet 45 and fish are going to call 2-pair here, no problem. But against regulars, I actually think this is too thin. It's just not going to work. And yeah, basically that. Just going to rely on the fact they're multi-tabling, not paying attention, and have a set and click call, but it's probably too optimistic. I think I just check like a check back here and hope you win. So this guy called quickly. Split pot. 100% split. Or this guy raises now and then. Yeah, that'd be really bad. Queen 9. Calls a min-raise preflop in the small blind, Queen 9 suited. A bit loose, but perfectly reasonable. Check over calls flop with backdoor flush draw, 2 overs, and the high open ender. A bit loose, so if I was paying attention, I should note down that he's pretty loose, but not sure if bad or not. Like I said, though, if he's really, really paying attention, he could check jam river and, well, force my split into a really nasty situation. I'd certainly fold, and then he'd win half the pot by making a semi-bluff on the river. You can't semi-bluff river unless you're trying to bluff someone off of the chop. So keep that in mind. Whoa. Ace King, top right, 4x under the gun. This is actually that's actually a situation where having a read is extremely important. I want to know what's his under the gun raising range. I want to know, is he smart or is he not that smart? Meaning, how is he interpreting a preflop re-raise against an under the gun 4x raise? Let me expand on that a tiny bit. Someone opens under the gun 4x, they should be on range of like very tight premiums, top 8% or something like that. Because putting in 4 big blinds with ace 10 offsuit here is just too loose. It's just a losing play, assuming competitive players behind you. And if he knows he reps a tight range and he sees me re-raising on the button, he should obviously fold ace queen and yeah, ace king, I guess, deal with it. But so if he's smart and does this, maybe because the small blind is not that great, then a re-raise here is not getting too much value. But then on the flip side, if he's bad and just opens a 20% range, like any pocket pair, ace 10 plus under the gun, some suited connectors, I obviously want to re-raise because it's just pure value and there's already 5.5 blinds in the pot, so definitely want to re-raise. So yeah, this is a situation which is kind of murky. Either play is fine. I wonder what I did. As a default, my base assumption would be someone who opens big is not that good, but that could of course be totally off. So I do 3-bet. Fine. I'm starting to mark people. I guess you've seen me mark people on other sites. Basically, my system works as like a stop light system. Red means stay away. Orange means pretty solid, pretty good regular. Yellow means like okay, solid player, and green means go ahead, play that guy, he's bad. And sometimes I mark regulars in green. That's, well, doesn't mean they're bad, just means I don't mind playing with them. So you folded kind of quickly, which somewhat solidifies the read that he might be opening to lose, but yeah, just that hangs on very loose strings, I guess. There goes a green color. Maybe I did pick up on the queen 9 hand. Okay. Purple means he limps, so he gets green, obviously. Purple means aggressive fish for me, and yeah, opening 5x. I mean, coupled with the fact that he had queen 9 there, most likely means a bit crazy. Like, well, you know how a crazy player plays, just check raise randomly. Oh no, don't tell me I did this on video. Okay, guess I can speed it up. We're watching at 1.3 times replay speed. I'm gonna go 1.5 if I can get that. Yeah. Or maybe even faster. In case you're wondering, I'm using VLC Media Player. It's kind of free player. Works really well. Plays like any format. You can drag the player onto like 4 screens, and it works without lag, which Windows Media Player won't do. You can have play speed settings. You can have some cool hotkeys you can use, and can't really show them right now, but recommended. VLC has a little pylon as a logo. Top left, open small blind, 8-7 off. See if we can use some hotkeys. There we go. 8-7 off, small blind. Too loose, unless I have some read that the guy's folding too much, which I don't. So I think it's just a bit too loose. 3-bets, well, can't do anything. Oh, of course I could 4-bet recall, but just too loose. What's my mouse doing? Should definitely get a program that like changes my mouse for the replayer videos, right? So you can follow it more easily. Top right, 3-betting queen jack, big blind on small blind could be fine. Obviously, calling that then a thin value, hoping he's like gonna call suited connectors, pocket pairs, where our hand plays really well post flop. But queen jack suited doesn't want to face a 4-bet, so usually 3-betting here is a bit too optimistic pre-flop, so I just call pretty standard. C-bets flop. Well, I guess I don't know why pause, just fold, don't have anything. Top left, I open raise against the presumed fish, and he calls. On this flop against a regular, you want to check behind. Usually, I mean, you don't have to, but I tend to just check behind because no point in betting really. But against a weaker player, you so want to bet this just pure value. They're gonna call any sort of draws, over cards, under pairs, over pairs, and even more importantly than just value right now is like right now maybe I have 55% against his continuation range, so it's not huge value, but turn and river play are gonna favor us. And whenever, like I said this before in this video, actually, whenever turn or river play favors you, you want to have a bigger pot. Like, imagine it blanks off, he bets river. We know he's bluffing way too often because fish just like check call draws, bluff river. And we're outplaying him by calling a bluff catcher on the river in that scenario. And we want a bigger pot when we outplay him, so. Yeah, that was kind of messy, but I hope you understand. Turn value is too thin. He can have a straight 2-pair. 8x, queen x, etc. River value, should have paused earlier. River value might be possible, like a quarter of the pot or less. Probably not. He might have ace 7, 8x. No, that's fine. He actually even checked a queen on the river, so value would be way too thin. Yeah, that didn't make any sense. Ace jack, bottom left. Can we go like 1 second back? No, just does like 5 seconds or so. Ace jack, bottom left. Under the gun opens. Again, no info. Calling is out of the question in my opinion, because if you call here, your range is clearly defined as ace jack, ace queen, king queen suited, pocket eights through pocket jacks maybe. Sprinkle in some ace king pocket aces, I guess, but your range is just going to be face up, post flop, and that's just not really a good scenario going into 3 streets. So the option is fold or 3-bet, and ace jack is fine to 3-bet. Obviously, we're hoping you fold, so the 3-bet, it's not for value, but it's a reasonable hand, so 3-betting it like semi-bluff, I guess, if you want to call it that, is fine. Top right, small blind versus big blind. C-betting serves no purpose, really. Value against flush draws, yeah, but loses money against ace-x, and probably doesn't win money against floats, like 4 or 5 or something like that, so yeah, just check, and then, of course, check call. Cannot check fold. Okay, top left against the presumed weaker player. I do a sizing trick here. Let's move my mouse. Sizing trick is what I call it. Jack 8 on this board is the best hand 90% of the time. I'm pulling that number out of nowhere, but should be about right. So if you have the best hand very often, you should bet big for value usually. But this board is structured in a way that it's difficult for this player to have anything. We think he calls a lot pre-flop. Well, it's the second time he called pre-flop out of position, maybe even a third time or something. And so his range is going to be wide. And wide means he can have king 4. He can have queen 8. You can have any of those hands. And well, we want him to put money in when he has those hands. We want him to either check call as a float, or maybe have an idea to check raise bluff us. So yeah, I think this is kind of important. I'd bet this size with any value hand here, and I'd probably bet 18 with any bluff hand here. Just based on the nature of the board, it's a board where he's going to have a lot of nothings, and yeah, this is the best way to get money from nothings, and bigger is the best way to make all his nothings fold. So if we have 8-6 here, we want to bet 18, I think, and if we have this hand, we want to bet like, I don't know, 10, 12, something like that. Top right, he bets turn again. Not full stacked, so guess what that means. Well, against this size, we have to call again. There's no other option. 5 outs plus might have best hand, just call. Top left, we do get check raised. Cool. So he could obviously have a jack, could have pocket eights, could have a 7. Yeah, well, our play is probably call down here. If he jams river, that would suck, but call. See what happens. Top right, we win. Cool. He bet small twice. Let's go back. I can't go back on a footage video. That's cool. Yeah, that's right where he checks back. What does he have? I'm not sure. It looks a lot like a weak pair that bets small in the turn, so pocket eights, but I don't think pocket eights bets turn. So it would have to be king, jack, king 10, king 8 type of hand. I think that makes sort of sense. Maybe a 5. And then the other hands he could have is just pure air that bets randomly on the flop and turn. So yeah, I'm gonna go with pure air. I hope I looked up what he had. I'm gonna put him on pure air. Maybe my Hold'em manager even manages that. So top left, we get a turn check. Pretty much sure he was bluffing now. What's his range when he checks turn? Well, it could be anything. Could be a slow play again, like 9-7 is a hand they often like. Oh, turn the boat, I have to check. Flush also possible, 7x possible. 10-8 possible. So a lot of better hands possible, but not very likely. I guess also like Jack 10 is possible. Can we value bet turn? Well, we're getting value from a worse jack, possibly, and from 9x. Like, if he has 10-9, 9-5, any sort of 9 is going to check call. So we could get value from a 9, but that's probably not enough hands to value bet, considering he might have a better jack, a 7, a straight, a flush. Even though those hands aren't very likely, all of them combined are going to be more than the 9x he has. And then we could also bet to protect. Just if he has king 6, without a heart, he's going to have 3 outs. With a heart, he's going to have 9 plus 3, 9 plus 2, depends if the king is in flush or not. So, like, we're looking at him having between, like 5 and 25% equity if he has nothing. So maybe 15% equity on average. So do we want to protect against those 15%? Well, the answer is, how's the river going to play out if we check? And I think if we check behind, we can call a river bluff on a lot of cards. Like, if the river is a 6, he bets like 40, we can just snap call and see a lot of random hands. So I think protection is not an issue because river is going to play out fine for us, unless it's a heart and he bluffs us, which could happen, but it's not that likely. So I think I should check back turn here. I do, so that's good. Queen's pretty bad. If he bets, well, if he checks, we obviously check behind, I think. Yeah, let's just see what happens. Don't want to branch off too far into the hands. So he checks. Can we value bet? We chop with any Jack X that's below a King kicker, or I guess below a Queen kicker, but that's a Queen X hand. So we can't value bet against Jack Deuce. We also don't mind betting against Jack 10. So Jack X is kind of out of the picture unless he has Ace Jack. And we can value bet against pocket 8s that randomly check raise flop, or 9x still. I guess sort of same range we could value bet against on the turn, we can value bet against now. And it's probably too thin as he can still have some random full houses, random straights. King 10 gets there. Queen X possible, he just checks river because he's kind of passive. So I think value is a bit too thin. Another thing we could do is just bet like 10. Maybe he looks us up with just random cards because it's $10. Maybe he's going to check raise bluff, and we're obviously going to call a raise if we bet 10. So that's an option. I think that's a reasonable option, but I wouldn't try it unless I had some sort of read on the guy that he's capable of bluff check raising, or that, well, I don't know what read exactly, but just some sort of feeling on how he plays, like his timing on the turn check, is that weak, or could that be strength, or how wide is his pre-flop calling range, first of all. Stuff like that. So yeah, so I think check back river and see what he has. 10-5, so great. Well, I guess if we knew he had 10-5 on the river, we would want to bet $10, of course, and hope he spazzes. But we induced a flop check raise, maybe by our special flop sizing, maybe not, maybe he's just gonna check raise anyway, but yeah, I think that worked out well. Did it just say modified when I changed the label? That's cool. So I know how old my notes are. Cool. 10-8 suited against a min raise, calling, of course. I think 3-betting this preflop is actually a mistake. Not like a mistake that a fish, like of a fish's mistake magnitude, but like a mistake in a sense of, if you have a fine-tuned game, this shouldn't be a 3-bet. Reason being, it's too thin to 3-bet for value, because, well, if he calls, your equity is bad, and if he 4-bets, you don't know what to do. So it's not a value 3-bet, and it's a very, very good hand for calling his min raise because it plays considerably well in min raise pots out of position. So it just doesn't really make sense to 3-bet this. Yes, it's fine to 3-bet, probably way better to 3-bet it than to fold, and might even be better to 3-bet it than to call it. But just overall, for your range construction, you do not want this hand in your 3-betting range. You rather want to take different hands as 3-bet folds, or yeah, basically that. So yeah, minor point, but yeah, don't 3-bet that. It's not a big mistake, but just not good for your ranges. He checks back flop. I was gonna check fold flop because I don't even have a backdoor. Well, I'd have 2 backdoor straights or 3 backdoor straights. Yeah, 3, I think. Don't make me count it. So yeah, it was just check fold and flop. He checks behind though. His range should be very ace high heavy. I would assume he checks back ace high, planning to possibly call down. Well, just bluff catch, turn and river. He could check back a queen if he's a bit tightish and thinks queen deuce doesn't have much value in betting, which is okay. You might obviously have eights, nines, tens, jacks. Might have sixes, fives, fours, threes, deuces. Or might just have 4-3 suited and give up on the pot, which is reasonable. Yeah. So 9-10. Well, I guess it's kind of easy decision on the turn. We don't have enough showdown value to check it down. We have a lot of outs plus a lot of cards that our hand plays well on the river. Like, I mean, obviously, if a jack, well, we hit a jack. If a king of spades comes, we're obviously gonna bluff and have a plus EV bluff. So this hand is certainly a turn bet. Checking turn, maybe playing to check raise isn't terrible, but I don't like that. I think you should bet here, and size is just whatever. I bet on the bigger side. Yeah, no particular reason except that I want him to fold. And he just instantly folds, which doesn't tell us anything. He could have given up. He could have had a reasonable hand and decided board is not that good for his hand. Top right, ace 10 suited. Against a button min raise, this hand should be strong enough to 3-bet for value. Yeah, basically, if he min raises a range of 50% or more, which I would assume usually players are on the button, then he can't fold to this 3-bet when he has ace 9 suited, ace deuce suited, and against all those hands we have value. King 10 suited, jack 10 suited, obviously. And ace 10 suited also plays okay if we face a 4-bet, in a sense that we could call a 4-bet, we could jam over a 4-bet. Won't be the end of the world, even though we don't like getting 4-bet. Okay. I mean, I guess this is pretty standard, but I think 3-betting is a tiny bit better than calling. Alright. We'll go 1 or 2 more hands and then I'm going to wrap it up. King deuce suited. Looks like I'm considering something. Okay, so do I want this hand in my 3-betting range here, yes or no? Assuming I have no reads on the players and yeah, don't know any tendencies, I don't have any image, they don't have an image that they think they have. It's just very standard situation. I think I do not want to 3-bet it for the following reason. I think I can call king 10 suited, can probably call king 9 suited, though it's kind of close. And king 8 suited, I cannot call. I think that would be too loose. So the first king X suited hand I want to 3-bet bluff with would be king 8 suited. And king 8 suited is better for bluffing because obviously has more equity than king deuce suited. Predominantly in the cases where he has pocket sevens, king 8 is just much better than king deuce. So since I can choose what hand to 3-bet bluff with, from king 8 suited, king 7 suited, all the way down to king deuce suited, I would choose king 8 suited over the other hands because it's better. Yes, there's one thing to be said to mix up your ranges, so you don't always have king 8 suited when you 3-bet bluff here. But like having a deuce in your 3-betting range is a valid argument to do that, but it's very weak and yeah, shouldn't really sway your decision much. So yeah, if I 3-bet here, I think it's a tiny bit too loose, but by no means bad or anything. It's just a tiny range consideration thingy that I don't want to do this. Unless, of course, if I have reads, this guy opens cutoff a lot, or folds to 3-bets a lot, or doesn't 4-bet enough, or big blind is a bad player who's going to cold call 3-bets, and well, I guess king deuce isn't the greatest in that scenario, but yeah, if I have any sort of reads, I can justify this play as it's very close to a standard play. Like king 8 suited re-raise would be standard, in my opinion. Not every time, but if you re-raise king 8 suited here, I would say that's good. King deuce suited, a bit too loose, but a tiny read can quickly change that into being a fine play. Alright, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Hope you guys enjoyed this format. We got through 8 minutes of footage. I have 40 minutes, so Simple arithmetics telling me that's gonna be 5 videos. I don't know. Don't think I'm gonna keep it going for that long. Maybe I'm gonna search for some interesting parts where I can like start the next video at. Let me know if you like the math part or not. I can do more of that. I can go a bit more crazy with that if you want me to, or if you didn't like that, then tell me that as well. This was Paul, aka Internet for iPoker VIP Coaching, and see you guys next time.